man, just immediately in the first couple turns, I trust the feel of this bike more than that 140. But that doesn't, I mean, don't pay too much attention to that, only because I have so much time on this bike over the last 3 years. And yeah, I used to own the Yeti SB140 lunch ride, which is so similar to that 140, but it does feel different. Went small. So sketch.
Taking a pedal stroke, more sketchy.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Dude, I felt like I had
me off balance.
I actually felt like I had the right speed that time. It's just in my mind.
Yeah.
So what are your quick thoughts? I mean, I feel like the 140, just on the first little descents, I feel more stable. I feel like the bike's a little quieter, not noise, but quieter, like chatter. It's not as chattery.
Yeah, this felt like my vision was a little more bouncy on this bike.
Okay.
Not that it was like, oh, I have no grip. It just felt like I was a little more on the edge of control compared to that Yeti. And it could be riding speed a little bit. Second day, probably riding a little faster today.
Oh, we're probably going faster today. Okay, I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, and I mean, this kind of trail never feels smooth. Like, it's always going to be sharp-edged bumps, but
what about the corners? In the corners, I also felt like I mean, I didn't ride as well yesterday. I feel like I'm riding better today because, you know, yesterday was the first day in 2 months I've ridden, but I did feel like I had more traction in the corners even, maybe. I don't know.
A little bit, but I also blew 3 corners today.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But again, I think I was riding a little faster just because I'm a little more comfortable than yesterday. But man, they're again, splitting hairs. Not one stood out over the other to me.
Okay.
I do like the Yeti, maybe for its just a little more lower, racier feel. But I also like how this comes in and out of corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
This isn't helping you, I know.
Yeah, I know. Let's get back on the 140 and do more testing.
Yeah.
This is the new Yeti SB140, and today it's in a head-to-head video against the tried and true Ibis Ripmo. For those of you who've been watching the channel the last couple of years, you'll know that I am a massive Ibis fanboy. I've spent so much time on this shorter travel Ibis Ripley, which is 120 millimeters of travel, and whenever I get to speeds that are a little bit too sketchy for the Ibis Ripley, I grab a Ripmo. It's been my favorite bike, absolutely favorite bike in the longer travel 29-inch wheel size category. It can do it all, and that's why I was so excited to try out this 140 and compare them back to back. In today's video, we're going to talk about how they climb, how they descend, what's different about them, and I have a winner, so stick around to the end of the video. So climbing on the Yeti SB140, I just released an entire SB140 video last week. You can go check it out here. But the short of it is, this bike is incredibly efficient, more so than probably any other bike in the category. To give you an idea of like the best climbing bike in the category has been, in my mind, the Pivot Switchblade. The Ibis Ripmo is also very composed and capable climber. I would say this feels more efficient. The 140 feels more efficient and even gets through technical, tricky bits of trail better. It just finds traction. It's unbelievable. Better than the previous Yeti SB140 lunch ride, and on par with that pivot switchblade. The Ripmo's right there too. You're really splitting hairs. If you were going to award points, you would award 1 point to the SB140, but I don't do that here on MTB Yum Yum. I don't award points like that. These are both some of the very best climbing long travel trail bikes you'll find anywhere. I wouldn't make my decision between the two on climbing alone. I will just tell you some little nuances about climbing. The Ripmo, the front end, you know, tends to wander less than the 140 on like the really steep, pitchy parts of the trail. When you really feel like you got to drop your chest down to the ground and to stay going uphill, this is just the very steepest sections of trail that you guys might ride. I would say the 140 wanders a little bit more than the Ripmo. That's the only thing I would say about them. Other than that, this feels more efficient and it gets through the trickier bits of trail maybe slightly better. I'd be happy with either one of these bikes to climb on all day for a longer travel bike. Like right here, this steep section with these rocks, the front tire does come up just a little bit and wander. Kind of feels a little lightweight, like I can really turn that wheel pretty, like on accident. Oh. Nice job, Kev. Yeah, the Ripmo feels a little bit more glued to the ground, I would say, in that same situation. Then you got this kind of less of a climb, flatter section right here, and this bike feels more efficient, like it's just rolling up the trail. So if I had to pick one of these two bikes to take for like a long day, a lot of pedaling, you know, really go out there and just get lost for 4 or 5 hours, I think I would feel less fatigued at the end of the day on this bike, on the 140. And also on the downhill. And I'll show some downhill footage here in a minute, but on the downhill, it's less fatiguing. It's a little less chattery. It's more planted feeling. I personally like the riding position, like the more neutral riding position of the Ripmo, but I can't not say that this is the more, in my experience the last couple days, this is the more stable, smoother bike. That's how I felt. This section of trail is just so cool. This trail, for those of you wondering, is called Zen in St. George, Utah. Really, really cool trail. All right, we'll probably, actually, here's a tough spot too. Keep your momentum up through here, Kevin. And make sure your gearing's right too. Have enough gear to stand on. Go, go, go. Go, Kev. Nice. Let's get to the reason why we buy these bikes now. It's to descend. We buy these bikes because we want to climb up and then bomb down. Oh man, this bike, you guys, has blown my mind. And I've already said it, I'm a massive Ibis fanboy. I love everything that Ibis does. I mean, the geometry that they put on their bikes, the way their bikes ride is so good. The 140 just does it a little bit better, and I'll explain why. Believe it or not, there was section of trail the 3 days that I was riding these bikes back and forth. There were sections of trail that would sometimes get a little too chattery and a little too twitchy on the Ripmo, but I didn't notice it. I just thought I was bombing down the trail at my limit. But when I got on the 140, at that same speed and that same feeling inside me, like, oh no, I'm getting to my limit, this bike was slightly calmer in the chattery sections. Yeah, the bike just feels smooth right there. It was surprising how stable this bike felt, even compared to the Ibis Ripmo. which I don't know why I'm so surprised. Yeti makes these incredible bikes. The Switch Infinity link that they use back here on for a suspension system on a Yeti is just so composed and such good suspension management. It calms the bike down in chattery sections, but then on smooth sections of trail, it still feels poppy and lively and energetic. That's one of the things I've always loved most about the Ripmo in this category. Some of the bikes in this longer travel 29-inch trail bike category can sometimes get a little boring. They're too damp and they're too quiet, and they don't give enough pop on the trail. The Ripmo has that in spades. I mean, it's an incredibly lively, poppy bike that's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding to ride. I was just shocked that riding these bikes back and forth, switching off during the day for 3 days, the Ripmo did feel a little twitchy at higher speeds. It's crazy to say that. Again, I would be happy with either one of these bikes being my only bike. I love these bikes. They're incredibly capable. I just think this does the uphill and the downhill just marginally better. And it's worth noting that here on this channel in this video. The other thing that to maybe think about a little bit is pumping. Like pumping on smooth trails, this bike, because of how efficient it is, it just really, you can push into this bike so hard and it just maintains that energy and forward movement down the trail, which is really rewarding to ride. Like I said, for those of you who've watched the channel, you'll know that nothing has dethroned this bike for me. I've just loved it so much. I've owned that bike for the last 3 years almost. The other thing to maybe think about is on the trail, when you're riding and the environment of the trail, the terrain changes. Your body position and your rider input changes, obviously, right? One thing I've always liked about the Ripmo so much is how balanced the bike is. I always feel like I'm in the right spot on the bike, despite the change in terrain. And it's a very easy bike to ride, which translates to you feeling like you're a better rider than you actually are. That's why I've always recommended people go with the Ripmo. It makes you feel like you're riding really well and riding really fast and very composed because it's such a neutral and balanced bike, especially compared to the previous Yeti SB140 lunch ride. Now this one definitely leans more towards the Ripmo. And if I had to sum it up in one word, and if I was the director of a massive mountain biking publication, what I would say is that the Yeti SB140 literally feels like it took all the good racer boy, speed, aggressive feeling of the old Yeti SB130, and they married it with a Ripmo. They brought the energetic, fun, lively, more balanced and neutral riding position of this bike, and bam, you got this thing. So if the Ripmo and the old Yeti SB130 lunch ride had a baby, it would be the 140. And what a baby it is. I will be riding this bike for the rest of the 2023 season. Every time I ride it, it puts a smile on my face. I've got other bikes at my house right now, including a Pivot Switchblade, a Specialized Stump Jumper Evo, and there's a few other bikes that are coming out that I've been spending time on. This is the bike I grab. It puts a smile on my face. It makes me feel like I'm a good rider, like a better rider than I normally am. It's more balanced than the previous Yeti SB130. I've talked about that. It feels like a better version of the Ripmo. At the end of the day, man, these are the best bikes you could be riding in 2023. They're incredible. They have very similar geometry. 65-degree head tube angles, 77-degree seat tube angles. The reach is very similar at 460 millimeters on a size medium, and I'm 5'8". I almost always fit really well on a medium. Same is true here. I have 750 millimeter bars on both bikes and a short 35 millimeter stem on here. I love them. The only thing I'll say from the 3 days of riding, and this is, I almost didn't say this because I did feel this is such a familiar bike to me because I spent thousands of miles on it. I've spent so much time on the Ripmo that I did feel a little bit more comfortable right away on the Ripmo, but by the end of 3 days, it was clear. This was the bike for me. The only thing that was kind of giving me a little pause was I was still jumping. I felt a little bit more comfortable in the air still on this bike. I don't know why. Because everywhere else this bike felt you know, more composed, less chattery at higher speeds. Oh, I didn't touch on this. Traction. This had, I don't know why. I was riding the same trails on the same days. This just felt like it had more traction to me. I swapped tires on them as well. I tried both these bikes with a more cross-country tire called a Recon, Maxxis Recon tire. This bike always had more traction for me for some reason than that bike. Anyway, I hope I've touched on some of the things that you're interested in hearing about these two bikes. If you're in the bike market right now, I got both these bikes from Salt Cycles in Sandy, Utah. They have both of them in stock, although they don't have this color anymore. This is last year's color. They have the black one and the green one in stock for the Ripmo. The other thing I should say also is that I always took the Fox Float X2 shock off and replaced it with either the DPX2, you know, 2 years ago, or now the current Float X shock. I think it's a better shock in every way, and I really enjoy it. Ripmo also comes with a 38 on the front now versus a 36 on the SB140. I can't tell a huge difference between the two. I weigh 145 pounds, I'm 5'8". I don't know, maybe if I was a lot bigger or harder rider, maybe I'd notice the 38, but I didn't. And I haven't on the last 3 or 4 bikes I've ridden it on. I think you call Salt Cycles and get a custom build on the 140. That's what I would do. That's what I did do. I have a completely kitted out Shimano with Envy wheels and Envy cockpit SB140 that I had Chris build for me. They've done so much to support my channel, and I really appreciate all they do. So if you're looking for a Ripmo or an SB140, give Chris and Courtney and the guys over at Salt Cycles a call, and they can get you set up and do a custom build for you. Thanks for watching this video. The winner is the 140. I can't believe I'm saying it because I've always loved Ibis. I still love Ibis so much, but this also has a better fit for people ranging from, you know, really tall to really small. It's got, you know, different size chainstay lengths depending on which size frame you get. Also, it's a stiffer frame for a heavier rider who's riding a large or an extra large, and it's not quite as stiff if you're a small or a medium. Go watch my SB140 video to hear more about that. You can go watch that up here, but I think this is the clear winner. It's the bike I'm going to be riding this year, and I am falling in love with it every single ride. I'm just getting more and more interested in spending time on this bike. So thanks for watching, guys. There's links down below in the description to both these bikes if you want to go look at all the nerdy numbers or learn more or to purchase the bike. Also, leave a comment in the section down below if you've switched from a Ripmo onto an SB140, or if you came from the previous 130 to a 140. I'd love to hear your comments in the section down below. I'll also answer any questions that are down there, and we'll see you next Tuesday in the next video. Thanks, guys. So I'm just editing the Ripmo and SB140 video right now, and I really failed to mention that the Ripmo with the same build kit, X01 drivetrain and everything, is about $900 less. So that's definitely something worth considering. You know, if you're a man on a mission of saving money, then that $900, you know, is valuable, you know, and so, if money's a real issue, I think the Ripmo is probably the better buy because it's less money, right? But if you want to eke out the very best of your riding experience, I think that's found in the Yeti. So just wanted to include that. I'm just finishing up the edit right now, and it'll be uploaded. So enjoy. Yeah! That is so freaking fun, man.